I'm Edwin Warfield, the publisher of Citybiz, and I'm honored today to interview Mayroz, who is the founder and CEO of Roadz. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about the industry Roadz operates in, fleet management, and how Roadz is changing that industry?
Sure. So, fleet management is one of the larger industries. It's part of a broader industry that we call physical operations. Uh, Physical operations are responsible for about 40% of the US GDP. Basically, anything that has to do with moving goods and services has to rely on physical assets. Those can be vehicles, it can be other equipment, uh, people that move around, and fleet management enables that to happen. Um, Fleet management has been using technology for over 30 years now. Started with telematics, which is putting boxes in vehicles, bringing data from those vehicles, whether it's location or later on connecting to the vehicle itself, bringing information about fuel, information about engine fault codes, and other things using different sensors, and then sending that data over to the cloud uh, lately in the last 10 years, and using that data to understand some things. Over the years, more and more technologies got added to that to help fleet managers deal with things like maintenance, like fuel, etc. And the industry has evolved in some ways, but in many ways still quite legacy. Uh, Different systems are separated. It's very hard to understand what's going on across those providers that help fleets do different things. And what Roadz does is we help bring that data together from the different providers and mash that data together and then use it to understand how fleets operate and help them improve their operations, reduce costs, etc.
And so, how did you identify the problem Roadz is solving, and how did you get Roadz started?
Mm. So, about 6, 7 years ago, I decided that I wanted to do something in the world of physical operations, fleet management. I identified it as an area that, on the one hand, has a very big market, very big impact on our economy. On the other hand, as I said, quite legacy in some ways. And my background is in intelligence systems. I innovated, conceptualized, and designed some of the larger intelligence systems out there. And I thought that using the knowledge that I, over the years, gathered around how to use data to understand the world could be very beneficial in that industry. So I thought, well, how will I learn the industry and to identify exactly the right angle? So I talked to some investors that have known me for many, many years and always wanted to invest in something I do. And they said, well, we're invested in a public company in the world of fleet management. Would you mind joining the company and leading? I was the chief product and strategy officer, help the company find a direction, and on the way you also can learn the industry and see if you want to do something. And that's what I did. And within about 3 months, actually, I recognized the silos in that industry and how big of a problem it is. And then framed already the idea for Roadz. I stayed there a little bit longer to help them out, but then later started Roadz.
That's an interesting part of your professional history. So tell us a little bit more about the siloed data in the what do explain, go a little deeper into what do you mean siloed data in the fleet industry? What does that mean?
Yeah. So the average fleet, there's actually a recent survey of about 1,000 fleet managers, and what you see there is that in that specific survey, 46% of fleet managers say they use more than 10 applications to manage their fleet. 30% say it's too many to even count. So, because fleets are really complex things, you need help with doing pretty much everything, whether it's asset utilization, energy consumption and fuel usage, maintenance, route optimization, tolls, Safety is a huge area. There are many, many different services that deal with safety, including training, driver distraction prevention, accident, post-accident management, etc. So for each one of those things, typically a fleet uses a different provider. That different provider is a different company with a different data structure, different dashboards, and it's really hard to bring that data together and understand what's really going on if you look at the main tasks of a fleet manager, which is managing those things, managing safety, managing asset utilization, managing maintenance. All those things require data typically from more than one solution. For example, just as an example, you want to manage fuel theft because that's a thing that happens, unfortunately. You need to bring data from the fuel station or from the fuel cards, but also data from telematics. You need to bring it together. You want to manage safety. You need information about accidents that typically are with the insurance carriers. And you need to bring data about driver behavior. You need to bring data about driver training. You need to bring data about mileage from telematics providers. Because the more miles a driver drives, you know you need to divide the accidents by the mileage they drive, because naturally if they drive more, there are more accidents. Now these data types need to be brought together. To bring it together, it's not trivial. Different companies use different systems. For that, we developed a platform, a data platform that is designed from the ground up to mash data around assets. So the core element of our data platform is based on asset representation. We call it fleet digital twins. We basically try to represent the vehicles, the drivers, trailers, containers, cranes, basically anything, cameras, devices, anything in the real world. We give it an asset type. And then we bring the data from the different providers and attach it to the same asset. So if, for example, you take a vehicle, you bring telematics data and maintenance data and fuel data and accident data and attach it to the same vehicle across the different providers that a fleet uses. Once you unify that data, you can also represent relationships between the assets. For example, you can represent which driver is now driving a specific vehicle dynamically. So if you bring, for example, data about driver behavior, that comes from the vehicle, but you need to attach it to the right driver. If tomorrow or the next hour there's another driver, you need to attach the driver behavior data from the vehicle to the right driver. So you have to be able to represent that. Another example, if you have, in your system that a certain trailer is attached to a certain truck, and you know the location of the truck, you also know the location of the trailer. Now, you might not know it otherwise, or maybe you get from the trailer a signal about location once every 12 hours to save on battery. But from the truck, you get it once every 30 seconds. So you know now with the resolution of 30 seconds, where is the trailer, if you're able to attach or to connect those assets to one another. So for that, you need a platform, again, that was designed specially for that, and that's what we have done.
And talk a little bit about the unification of data and the unification of user experience. Explain what that's all about.
Yeah, so once you bring the data together, you can start thinking about how to help fleet managers with the fact that today they work across 10, 20 different dashboards, 10 different providers. So if you look at what fleet managers define today as their number one problem that technology could help solve, there's a recent survey, I think 500 fleet managers. And the question there was, what is the biggest thing you would like technology to solve for you? And about half of fleet managers define that as bringing all my systems together into one environment, a single pane of glass. The term is usually single pane of glass, one dashboarding environment, a portal that I can see all the information together. So to give you an example, many fleet managers, because they have limited time, they use a management technique they call manage by exceptions. I want to know what's wrong. What do I have to do now? And typically, those exceptions or those alerts are coming from the 10, 20 different systems in different environments. Now, if you can bring that data together to one unified alert log that you can prioritize and you can let the fleet manager manage them and do tasks around them together from their maintenance systems and toll system and driver training system, etc., all can work together. That's kind of an example of an area where you can unify the user experience. Another example would be creating reports or dashboards based on the unified data. So by doing that, you allow them to work, let's say, about 80% of the time in that single pane of glass. From time to time, they do need to go to specialized interfaces, but most of the work can be done in one place. Another example of unifying the user experience is the asset management itself. So today, a large fleet buys vehicles, sell vehicles, hire drivers on a daily basis. Today, they have to go to each and every system they use and update it. That's a lot of work. Sometimes they just don't do it because it's too complicated. So you end up having different lists of vehicles and different lists of drivers or trailers in different providers with different technology providers, which create a mess. So if you allow them to manage in one place the list and then you push it out through APIs to all those providers, again, you help them manage the interface in one place and then it actually percolates into their systems.
Interesting. So your solution is helping fleets. Can you explain? I saw it was on your website. You've got this fleet tech solution provider. Can you explain that product service?
Yeah, so our product is designed for both the fleets themselves, the companies, as well as solution providers in the industry. Solution providers actually, because fleets are pushing them to integrate with others, to add value, to bring more things together, they have to spend resources on trying to integrate with others, which takes them a lot of time and it's really complicated. So, and most of those solution providers actually prefer not to do those integrations. They want to focus on their own core product. So our platform, because it's designed to integrate those services, can help them integrate with others. We also help them roll out to their customers an additional layer of value. So if I'm a telematics provider and I offer certain dashboards and services based on the telematics data, but now I can actually take from Roadz, from our company, also fuel data and maintenance data and toll data, and actually combine it and embed a Roadz dashboard within my own offering, I can offer a new level of productivity to my customers. Same is true to fuel card providers. We're working today with some of the largest insurance carriers. Progressive, the biggest auto insurance carrier in the US, is a customer. We're now just signing these days the biggest auto insurance also insurance provider in Asia. We're working with one of the largest insurance brokers, and all of them offer insurance, but they also want to offer a safety center that brings safety technologies to their customers, to their fleet customers, to help them reduce accidents, which is a very important thing for an insurance carrier. So basically, these companies, like insurance carriers, like telematics providers, fuel card provider, tier ones, we're working with the largest Bosch, the largest automotive tier one provider is a customer of ours, and others as well. They also want to bring together their different technology into one environment. So solution providers can also embed our technology in what they offer their fleet customers.
That's interesting because we use Stripe, and I'm getting promoted all these different APIs that are now integrated into Stripe. So it sounds like your model is not, and I probably would not have looked at them, but it's integrated into Stripe. So I'm starting to look at things because it's integrated into Stripe. So it sounds like your platform is sort of a version of that, uh, integrating the APIs. So very, very interesting. Tell us a little bit about, everyone's talking about AI. Yeah, how is it different from what you guys? How are you using AI and integrating it into fleet management?
Yeah, great question. So a, AI, as probably many people know, has gone through a tremendous change in the last 2 years or so. Um, with the kind of traditional AI, traditional machine learning, you needed to have a lot of data to solve a problem, and then you use that data in certain ways that are typical to machine learning to actually understand a statistical relationships between things and try to do something. Actually, AI has developed to what we refer to today as generative AI, or LLMs, large language models, that allow you actually that those models were actually taught with a lot of information from the internet mainly how to communicate with language. Basically, they seem to understand what we're saying. Basically, they use statistical analysis of relationship between words, and that enables you actually to take that capability to business users and allow them to express what they want to understand using actually natural language. Now, when many of us think about generative AI, we think about interfaces like what we're using with ChatGPT. So basically, you use kind of a small window, a chat window, and you ask a question and you get an answer. Now, for business users, especially somebody like a fleet manager that needs to work very, very fast on large amounts of data and automate things, asking questions about their data is good, but people not always know what they want to ask at a certain time. It's really slow to express what you want, and many times you need multiple prompts or expressions of what you're interested in to get the answer. So what's really important when you think about how to leverage generative AI in a business context is to allow somebody to express what they're interested in around their data, but then move it into a quicker interface. For example, you want to, let's say, a certain report. You want to create a report. You want to understand a driver risk, and you want a report that takes certain data points and understands what is the risk of a driver. Now, if you have the data, and in our case, we do have the data because we bring it together, you should be able to, over time, play with the prompts, explain to the AI, to the LLM, what you want to see, what reports you want to see, and because we're connected to the data, get that report. Now, the trick is how you turn that report to something that happens automatically on its own, and you get it once a week or once a day or wherever you want. So when we think about integrating generative AI into our platform, we try to connect it to the normal work environment of a fleet manager. So they can prompt and ask questions about their unified data that we bring together. And once they get the result, they can turn it into a report or they can turn it into an alert. You can tell, let me know whenever a vehicle is delayed by more than 10 minutes to its destination and alert me to that. So then the experience will be actually in your normal alerts feed. So what we're doing, we're allowing the two key elements is one, have the unified data, because you cannot answer questions if you don't have the data. So first we unify the data. Then we allow the user to actually create fast reports and alert that in today's environment require a development team. Right? Today, if you want a new report, new alert, typically you go to your IT team. It may take you a month, it may take you a year, or maybe it never happens because they have other priorities. But with this tool, they can actually create their own reports, their own alerts, their own dashboards on their own. And once they do that, they can actually plug it into their normal work environment. So they see it with other reports, with other alerts in an automated way. That's kind of the first level of what we're building, where the initiative sits with the business user. They say, I'm interested in something. The next level that we're now building is actually a system that is based on what's called multi-agent AI. And that actually is, I would say, probably the holy grail for fleet managers, because that doesn't even require them to think about the questions and to interact in an active way. Basically, we teach these agents, think about these agents as experts in different areas. Think about it, I'm a fleet manager and I have a safety expert. I have an asset utilization expert. I have a fuel optimization expert. I have a driver training expert. And each one of these experts, we teach them basically how to using language, because it's, they understand language. We teach them the expertise of the industry. We'll give them access to the data, and they initiate the communication with the fleet manager and letting them know how to improve.
That's fascinating. Very, very interesting. Okay. So let's talk about the money. Well, to walk us through your funding to date, where you are in funding, what's next in funding.
So far, we have raised from both financial investors and strategics. We actually have uh, financial investors that are with us. We exist more than 5 years now, so from the beginning, and they continue investing in the company. We also have strategics. Um, I would say the biggest global automotive company is one of our investors, and we're not at the moment actively raising, but as a startup, you always are want to basically to have enough to grow. So we're always happy to get to know and talk to new investors. So you know, I think that could be relevant for companies that are interested in the mobility space, for investors that are investing in SaaS. For us, strategic investors are interesting as well because that helps us grow. So that's the situation. I estimate that in about 6 months we'll be again starting to look at raising.
And so, how do you plan to grow the company? Is it internal growth, or do you have any potential acquisitions that make sense?
So at this point in time, internal growth, um, I think the market is very large. There is a potential to build a very big company. One thing to say about the growth strategy is that in what we do, it's very natural for us to use channels, because, as I mentioned earlier, solution providers are interested in offering our solution on top of theirs to their customers. So basically, the way we think about it is for enterprise customers, it makes more sense for us to go directly, both because in terms of sales capacity, as well as some of these very large customers want a Switzerland, because tomorrow they may switch a certain provider. So they want somebody that can bring whoever they decide to work with. So for them to work with us, even though we're a startup, is a natural thing because we are Switzerland. For the SMB market, for SMB fleets, that you have so many of them, right? Like millions of them, it makes more sense for us to go through partnerships. And that can allow us to grow, to scale quicker. So we're interested. We already have partnership with, as I mentioned, insurance carriers, telematics providers, and others, and we are interested in that, and that's how we will go to the SMB market.
So, what is your philosophy, and how have you built this company, navigating through COVID and the whole remote versus virtual challenges? So, yeah.
Yeah, so we started before COVID, so we started working in the office. We did have some remote engineers, but the core team and the majority of the people were actually in the office in Palo Alto. Our office is in Palo Alto. When COVID hit, naturally, you know, we closed the office and started working remote. So initially, I think like maybe some other companies, it seemed initially that it's actually great and people are more productive. And we did see some increase in productivity. Over time, however, we saw that there is an issue with brainstorming and innovation. And even though, when you're alone, you're able to tick more boxes quicker, you're able to actually do things faster because you don't spend time with others. The ability to really innovate and think deep through things was actually damaged. So when COVID ended, we decided to go back to an office, but in a hybrid mode, like probably quite a few other companies. What we did was we designated 2 days a week that everybody needs to be in the office. It's the same days for everybody. And during those days, we actually ask people not to schedule outside calls, even not try to reduce calls within the company that are not in the office. And we spend these days combination of you know, brainstorming and going together for lunch and doing some just socializing and some time together, and we find this kind of combination working very well.
Well, Rand, thank you for sharing your incredible journey. It's been a fascinating journey to listen to, and keep us surprised as you move to Series B, Series C, and moving forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.